On Christmas Eve, in a modern yet quiet American town called Briarwood Valley, a mysterious murder shakes the entire community. While the town is glowing with Christmas lights and joy, a single brutal crime turns the celebration into chaos. The case quickly becomes strange, intelligent, and dangerously unpredictable, so much so that the Federal Ordnance Investigation Bureau FOIB takes over. This becomes Briarwood Valley had never looked more peaceful. Snowflakes drifted like white feathers from a silver sky, settling over rooftops and Christmas decorations that glowed in soft, colorful patterns. Every street lamp shimmered with frost. Every porch carried the warm scent of cinnamon candles and gingerbread. Families laughed behind their windows. Children built snowmen and yards, and church bells chimed in the distance. It was Christmas Eve, after all, the night when the whole world felt safe. But at 11:48 p.m., the safety of Briarwood Valley shattered. Detective Aaron Blackwell's phone buzzed violently on the nightstand, dragging him from half-sleep into full alertness. The ringtone wasn't the usual one. This was the emergency line, reserved for only the worst situations. He sat up, rubbing his eyes as the cold air hit him. "Blackwell," he answered, voice rough. On the other end, Officer Maya Reynolds spoke fast, her breath visible in the freezing night. "Aaron, you need to get to Maplewood Circle, now." "What happened?" he asked, already pulling on his boots. There was a pause, too long. Too heavy. "It's bad," she whispered. "We've got a body, and I think this is different." Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. He knew Maya. She didn't get shaken easily. "All right," he said. "I'm on my way." He grabbed his coat, badge, and holster, then stepped outside into the biting cold. His breath fogged instantly. Snow muffled the world around him as he slid into his SUV and drove toward the scene. Christmas lights flickered over the roads, cheerful but eerie in the stillness. Something felt wrong already. When Aaron reached Maplewood Circle, he found chaos hidden beneath silence. Police cruisers flashed red and blue across the snow, coloring the falling flakes like stained glass. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind, cutting off a large, two-story house wrapped in elegant Christmas decor. A tall nutcracker statue stood guard at the front door, and a glowing reindeer sparkled in the yard, festive, innocent, and completely out of place for what waited inside. Officer Maya Reynolds stood by the porch, hugging her arms against the cold. The sun hadn't yet risen over Briarwood Valley when Detective Aaron Blackwell returned to Maplewood Circle. Dawn painted the horizon in pale blue, and the Christmas lights that had glowed through the night now dimmed under the early morning sky. The world was silent, too silent. Fresh snow had fallen since the night of the murder, leaving the entire neighborhood covered in a clean, untouched blanket of white. It looked peaceful, but Aaron felt the opposite. Crimes like this didn't belong to peaceful towns. Crimes like this belonged to minds capable of extraordinary darkness. Maya Reynolds approached him with 2 coffees in her hands. She looked exhausted. Dark circles settled beneath her eyes. They had barely slept 3 hours. "You look like death," Maya said, handing him a cup. Aaron smirked faintly. "At least I'm not the one who cried because the coffee machine was out of sugar." Maya narrowed her eyes. "I was emotional." Aaron simply sniffed the coffee. "This has sugar in it, right?" "Drink it and find out." He took a sip. Way too sweet. He sighed. "Thanks, Maya." Despite the grim atmosphere, the moment lightened the weight on their shoulders, just enough to keep them grounded. But only for a moment. "Let's walk through it again," Aaron said. The killer moved the body, left no footprints, opened a door without disturbing the snow, left a hidden camera, and left a ribbon with a message. Maya exhaled, and did it all on Christmas Eve. Aaron nodded slowly. That wasn't an accident. The killer wanted this case found on Christmas. They both looked toward the house. The front door still stood open, guarded by 2 officers. Where's Dr. Graves? Inside. He's been analyzing the living room all morning. Said he found something we missed. Aaron and Maya walked through the snow toward the house. The cold air stung their faces, but something else chilled Aaron deeper. The weight of the unsolved mystery. Inside, the house felt colder than the air outside. Ethan Cole's body had been removed, but the scene still held the haunting echo of what had happened. Dr. Leonard Graves stood by the Christmas tree, wearing latex gloves, analyzing the branches. You said you found something new? Aaron asked. Graves held up a small plastic bag. Inside was a tiny object, almost invisible unless pointed out. A micro SD card. We missed this during the sweep, Graves said. It was tucked inside the tree's wiring. Maya raised an eyebrow. From the camera? No, Graves replied. The camera built into that ornament uses internal memory. This SD card is separate. Aaron took the bag gently. Are you telling me the killer left us a memory card? Graves nodded. Maya frowned. Why would a murderer leave us evidence? That's insane. Aaron looked at the card. That's not insanity. That's confidence. The kind of confidence that only came from someone who believed they were smarter than everyone else. Where's Zara? Aaron asked shortly afterward. Zara Mitchell, the FOIB tech analyst temporarily assigned to Briarwood cases, arrived minutes later. Hoodie, laptop bag, messy hair, and coffee bigger than her face. She stepped inside with zero regard for the solemn atmosphere. You called? Aaron handed her the SD card. Tell me what's on this. Zara raised an eyebrow. This tiny thing? Probably cat videos. Zara, Maya warned. The morning after Ethan Cole's murder, Briarwood Valley felt different. Christmas decorations still blinked. Holiday music still played from store speakers. Families still walked the streets bundled in warm coats, drinking hot cocoa and smiling. But underneath the cheer was a tremor. A whisper. Someone died last night. Someone was murdered. Someone is still out there. Rumors traveled faster than the snowfall, and the killer was enjoying every second of it. Detective Aaron Blackwell pushed open the frosted glass doors of the Briarwood Police Department, the warmth hitting him in a wave. Officers moved quickly through the halls, phones ringing nonstop. Officer Maya Reynolds intercepted him with a tablet in hand. We've got a problem, she said without preamble. Aaron sighed. Of course we do. What now? Maya handed him the tablet. On the screen was a trending video, posted on the town's community newsfeed. The title read, Christmas Eve Murder. Killer leaves video message. Aaron's stomach dropped. Someone leaked it, he growled. Maya nodded grimly. Only a short clip, not the whole video. Just the masked figure saying, Merry Christmas, Detective Blackwell. Aaron clenched his jaw. Zara is furious. She's trying to trace the upload. Aaron returned the tablet. It didn't leak, he said quietly. Maya blinked. What do you mean? A killer this calculated doesn't make mistakes. He wanted this video out. He wants the town afraid. Maya looked disturbed. He's turning this into a show. Aaron nodded. And we're the unwilling stars. In the conference rooms, the team was already assembled. Zara Mitchell, arms crossed, laptop open, murder clip looping on her screen. Dr. Graves, sipping black coffee, focused. Daniel Walker, the stern FOIB agent sent to oversee the case. Daniel's cold blue eyes tracked Aaron as he entered. Detective Blackwell, it seems your killer is more theatrical than anticipated. Aaron glared. This wasn't me. Someone leaked it. Daniel's lips curved into a small, humorless smile. Oh, I know it wasn't you, but make no mistake, the killer wants the public involved. Zara slammed her laptop shut. He posted it himself, she snapped. Encrypted location, proxy routing, and guess what? He used Ethan Cole's old business server to host the file.
Maya frowned. So the killer hacked Ethan's company? No, Zara said. They didn't hack it. She turned her screen around again, showing a list of server logs. He logged in using Ethan Cole's personal credentials. Aaron stared. How? Ethan was dead. Exactly my point, Zara replied. Either Ethan stole his credentials earlier, or Ethan trusted the killer enough to share them with him. Maya tensed. You think Ethan knew his murderer? Dr. Graves cleared his throat. That brings me to my findings. I reviewed Ethan Cole's medical history. No enemies, no health issues, no risky behavior. But he hesitated. But what? Aaron pushed. Graves sighed. There was someone Ethan met frequently, several appointments over the past 6 months, each appointment listed under private consultation. And who was this person? Daniel asked. Graves looked up. A therapist. Aaron blinked. Ethan was seeing a therapist? Yes, a Dr. Marlon Cooper. Zara squinted. Never heard of him. That's because he's new, Graves said. Started practicing in town just last year. Where's his office? Aaron asked sharply. Downtown Briarwood, Frost Avenue. Aaron nodded sharply. We're going. Daniel stepped forward. I'll accompany you. Aaron stiffened. He didn't like Daniel's involvement, but FOIB had already taken over. He had no choice. Frost Avenue, 11:40 a.m. Dr. Marlon Cooper's office didn't look like a therapist's clinic. It looked like something out of a psychology textbook, minimalist, cold, painfully orderly. Aaron pushed the door open. A soft bell chimed. Inside, the waiting room was empty, except for a single Christmas wreath hung on the wall. Lights blinked faintly behind it, flickering as if they were dying. A secretary sat at the front desk, a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes. Can I help you? She asked. Detective Blackwell, Aaron said, flashing his badge. We need to speak with Dr. Cooper regarding one of his patients. Her expression tightened. I'm afraid Dr. Cooper is not available. Not available or not willing, Daniel repeated flatly. She swallowed. I mean, he's not here. He didn't come in this morning. Aaron exchanged a look with Maya. When did you last see him? Aaron asked. She frowned. Yesterday. He left early for Christmas Eve. His car was still in the lot this morning, but he didn't come inside. Aaron stiffened. His car is still here? The secretary nodded. Show us, Daniel said. They exited the building and moved behind the clinic to a small parking lot. Snow covered everything, except one car, a silver sedan with a thin layer of frost on the windshield. This is Dr. Cooper's, the secretary said. Aaron tried the door. Locked. He cupped his hands around the rear window glass, peering inside. Then he froze. Maya, look at this. Inside the back seat lay a red ribbon, identical to the one found in Ethan's house. Maya's breath hitched. Oh no. Zara, standing next to them, put her hand over her mouth. Daniel stepped forward. Open the trunk, he ordered. Aaron inserted a slim tool, bypassing the latch. The trunk popped open. Slowly, and gasps filled the cold air. Snow gusted across the main street of Winterdale, swirling under the lampposts like ghostly dancers. It was early evening, the day after the Christmas murder, and the entire town felt as if it were holding its breath. Store windows were still decorated with red ribbons and plastic reindeer, but the cheerful lights now seemed dull, overshadowed by fear. Inside the Copper Lantern Diner, the town's only warm refuge at this hour, the door creaked open and Sheriff Raymond Holt stepped in. His heavy brown coat was dusted with snow, his jaw set hard. People inside fell silent instantly. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed to lower its volume. Raymond spotted Lucas Carter, Emily Rhodes, and Jordan Hale seated in a booth. He walked straight toward them. Evening, Sheriff, said Lucas, though he sounded anything but casual. Raymond slid into the booth without asking. We have a problem. Direct, flat and cold. Emily swallowed. Another clue? Something new? Raymond's eyes moved from one of them to the other before he finally said, "Someone broke into the evidence room early this morning." Lucas stiffened. What was taken? A file. The one about Henry Whitlock, the man murdered on Christmas night. Jordan exhaled sharply. So someone wanted to erase the past. No, Raymond corrected. They didn't take the entire file. They only removed one page. Emily leaned closer. Which page? The page with the forensic timeline, the document that estimated when Henry was killed. Lucas frowned, thinking fast. So the killer wants us confused about the timing. Why? Raymond hesitated, then lowered his voice. Because the real time of death might point to someone with an alibi. Someone we've overlooked. The diner fell silent again. The air grew heavy. Jordan spoke quietly. "Sheriff, do you think the killer is someone from town?" Raymond's reply was immediate. Yes. The word hung in the air like frost. Emily looked around the diner, at the families eating, the friends laughing nervously, the cook flipping pancakes. But Winterdale is tiny. Everyone knows everyone. Exactly, the sheriff said. Someone here is pretending to live a normal life while knowing exactly what they did. Lucas clenched his jaw. Did you check the security cameras? Who broke into the evidence room? Raymond sighed. That's the worst part. The camera feed was corrupted. Someone hacked the system. Jordan raised an eyebrow. Winterdale has hackers now? Raymond didn't smile. Winterdale has secrets, and someone capable of far more than we assumed. He reached inside his coat and placed something on the table. It was a photograph, grainy, printed from a low-resolution source. Emily picked it up. What is this? Raymond answered. This image came from the traffic camera near the woods. It was taken 20 minutes after the suspected time of the murder. The three friends leaned in. The picture showed a silhouette, tall, wearing a hood, walking alone through the snow towards the forest. Behind the figure was the faint reflection of a car's headlights. Lucas frowned. Do we know the car? No, but witnesses reported seeing a black SUV parked near Whitlock's property on Christmas night. It could be connected. Jordan leaned back, rubbing his temples. Does the figure look familiar to you? Raymond shook his head. The angle is terrible. The lighting is worse. But there's something else. He pulled out a second photo. This one was clearer. Emily's breath caught. A handprint? A partial one, Raymond confirmed. Found on Henry Whitlock's gate. And guess what? There's no match in the national database. Lucas stiffened. So the killer left a clue, but not by accident. That's my theory. They're taunting us. Jordan looked out the window as snow continued to fall. Sheriff, what do you want us to do? Raymond's tone sharpened with authority. I want you three to stay alert. Don't walk alone at night. Don't investigate anything without me. Whoever did this is smart, careful, calculated. Emily nodded, but her eyes told a different story. She wasn't planning to stay uninvolved. Lucas noticed it too. Raymond stood, sliding out of the booth. I'm issuing a town-wide advisory tomorrow morning. If this killer thinks Winterdale will hide for long, they're wrong. He paused, glancing back at them. And one more thing. If you hear anything at all, you come to me first. Understood? They nodded. The sheriff turned and left the diner, the bell above the door ringing behind him. For a moment, the three friends sat in silence. Jordan finally whispered, Guys, if someone stole part of the evidence, hacked the security system, and left a clean handprint, this isn't just some random crime. Lucas agreed. This is personal to someone. Emily stared out the frost-covered window, her voice barely audible. And they're not done. The lights flickered. The diner hummed louder. Outside, a black SUV slowly passed by the window, its headlights sweeping across their faces like a warning.
The snowstorm eased overnight, leaving Winterdale wrapped in a cold, shimmering stillness. The next morning, the town looked deceptively peaceful. White rooftops, glittering trees, and a quiet sky. But beneath that calm surface, fear pulsed like a warning heartbeat. By sunrise, Lucas Carter was already awake. He stood at his window staring at the woods behind his house, the same woods visible in the traffic camera photo Sheriff Holt had shown them. The dark trees swayed slightly in the wind, like shadowy fingers stretching toward the town. Lucas grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. His breath appeared in white clouds as he walked down his driveway, heading toward the tree line. He wasn't planning to disobey the sheriff. He just needed answers. As Lucas reached the edge of the woods, something caught his eye. A single footprint, pressed into the fresh snow. Deep, heavy, distinctly larger than his own shoe. Lucas crouched. "Not from this morning. Last night," he murmured. Another footprint was a few feet ahead. And another. They formed a trail leading directly into the forest. Lucas hesitated. He didn't want to go alone. He reached for his phone and called Emily. She answered on the first ring. "Lucas, everything okay?" "I found something. In the woods. Footprints. I don't know, but I think they match the size from the crime scene photo the sheriff showed us." Emily inhaled sharply. "I'm coming." "What about Jordan?" "He's already on his way to your place. We talked this morning. He couldn't sleep either." Within minutes, Emily and Jordan appeared, both bundled in heavy jackets. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also a fierce determination. Jordan looked at the tracks. "These are fresh enough, maybe 12 hours old." Emily folded her arms. "Let's follow them, but slowly, carefully." And the three stepped into the woods. The trail cut between tall pines, winding deeper into the forest. Branches brushed their shoulders, dropping powdery snow each time. The world around them grew dimmer, quieter. Lucas whispered, "The sheriff said not to do anything alone. He didn't say we couldn't look together." Jordan smirked. "Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he meant." Emily kept scanning the ground. The prints are spaced wide apart. Whoever this was, they were moving fast. Lucas stopped suddenly. "What?" Emily asked. He pointed. Ahead, the footprints changed. Instead of walking steps, they became irregular, like the person had stumbled, dragged something, or turned sharply. Jordan examined them closely. "Looks like they slipped or knelt down." Lucas studied the pattern. "Maybe they dropped something." As if on cue, the sun broke through the clouds for a brief second, just long enough to illuminate a glint in the snow not far ahead. Emily saw it too. "What's that?" They rushed forward. Half buried in snow was a small metallic object. Lucas brushed the snow aside and lifted it carefully. A simple, unmarked silver key attached to a plain ring. Jordan exchanged a look with Lucas. "That's not random." Emily stared at it. "No. No scratches, no engravings. It's like a brand new key. Who drops a key in the woods the night of a murder?" Lucas turned the key over in his hand. Someone who didn't want to. A strange discovery. Before they could process further, Jordan stiffened. "Guys, look." He pointed to a fallen tree trunk nearby. Scratched into the bark, rough, uneven, almost desperate, were the letters, "Don't." Emily's breath caught. "Don't what?" Beside the carved word lay a scrap of cloth, dark blue, thick, torn from a jacket. Lucas lifted it. "This is winter fabric. Expensive, too." Jordan leaned in. "Could belong to the killer." Emily shook her head slowly. "Or it belonged to Henry Whitlock." A cold wind swept through the trees at that moment, rustling branches and making all three look up.
For the first time, Lucas noticed something unsettling. The forest was too quiet. No birds, no animals, no movement, as though nature itself feared something here. Jordan whispered, "We should head back. Bring the sheriff." Lucas nodded, until something cracked behind them. A sharp, sudden sound, like a twig snapping under weight. The three froze. Lucas looked at Emily. Emily looked at Jordan. Jordan mouthed silently, "Not us." Slowly, they turned toward the noise. At first, they saw nothing but trees. A shadow. Tall, shifting between trunks. A silhouette watching them from deeper in the forest. Emily's voice shook. "Is that—" But the figure vanished before she could finish. Jordan grabbed Lucas's sleeve. "We have to go. Now." Lucas pocketed the key. "Run." They sprinted through the woods, following the trail back toward the town. The trees blurred past them. Branches whipped at their jackets. Snow kicked up behind their boots, but the sense of being followed didn't fade. When they finally burst out of the forest, gasping for breath, Lucas dared one look back. The tree line was empty, but the feeling wasn't. Someone had been there. Someone who didn't want them finding the key. By midday, Sheriff Holt was standing in Lucas's living room, the key turning slowly between his gloved fingers. "You followed footprints," he said, his tone flat but brimming with frustration. "Without backup?" Emily lifted her chin. "We weren't alone." "That's not the point," Raymond snapped. Jordan stepped in. "Sheriff, we saw someone out there, watching us." Raymond's expression changed slightly, but he kept his voice controlled. "Describe them." "Tall, wearing dark clothing, maybe a hood, couldn't see the face." Raymond held the key up to the light. "This key, it might belong to a locker, a shed, a storage unit, could be important." Emily asked, "Do you think the killer dropped it?" Raymond didn't answer immediately. Then he said something none of them expected. "This isn't the first time I've seen a key like this." Lucas's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" Sheriff Holt pocketed the key. "I'll tell you once I'm certain," he said firmly. "Until then, stay alert, all of you." He headed toward the door, but before leaving, he added, "And whatever you saw in those woods, it wasn't by accident." The door closed behind him. Lucas, Emily, and Jordan exchanged worried looks. Jordan whispered, "Guys, if the killer knows we were out there—" Emily finished the sentence for him. "Then they know we're getting close." Lucas looked toward the forest once more, feeling the cold crawl up his spine. Someone out there was watching, someone who didn't want their secrets uncovered. And Winterdale's worst Christmas was far from over.
The next morning broke colder than any day before. The sky hung low, gray and heavy, as though Winterdale itself was grieving. The snow on the rooftops had hardened into glass-like sheets, and every breath stung the inside of the lungs. Lucas Carter stood at the window of his kitchen, staring at the small object on the counter. The silver key. Sheriff Holt had taken the original one for analysis, but Lucas had made a careful sketch of it last night. Size, notches, shape, every detail burned into his memory. He couldn't stop thinking about it, about the footprints, about the shadow in the woods, about the carved message. Don't. Don't what? Don't follow? Don't trust? Don't dig deeper? Lucas knew one thing about himself. The minute someone told him don't, he wanted to push forward harder. He exhaled and turned away from the window just as his doorbell rang. Emily and Jordan stepped inside, shaking off snow. "Did the sheriff call you?" Lucas frowned. "No, why?" Emily pulled off her gloves, her face pale. "He wants us to meet him at Henry Whitlock's house, immediately." Lucas's eyebrows shot up. "The murder house?" Emily nodded. "He said there's something we need to see." Jordan added, "And judging by his tone, it's not good." The Whitlock house.
Henry Whitlock's home sat alone at the end of a long, icy road, a two-story structure built of dark timber and stone, with tall windows that somehow always reflected shadows instead of light. Even before the murder, the place had made Winterdale uneasy. Now it looked downright haunted. Sheriff Holt stood on the porch, arms folded, grim-faced. Two deputies flanked him, both looking tense. "About time," Raymond said as the three friends approached. "We've got something new." Lucas asked, "What happened?" Raymond pushed open the door. "Someone broke in again last night." Emily's breath caught. "Into the crime scene?" The sheriff nodded, and they didn't enter quietly. Inside the house, the air was bitterly cold. The smell of old wood mixed with something metallic, like dust and cold nails. A thin layer of frost coated the window edges, and the floorboards creaked with every step. But the strangest part? The Christmas decorations were still up. A tree in the corner, lights unlit, a few presents underneath, untouched, a wreath on the fireplace. It was eerie, like the holiday froze in time at the exact moment Henry died. Jordan whispered, "This place gives me chills." Sheriff Holt led them toward the back of the living room. "Look at this." They followed him down a hallway to Henry's study. The lock on the study door was broken, smashed as if someone had rammed it hard. "Whoever came in," Raymond said, "was looking for something specific." The room had been ransacked, papers thrown across the floor, books knocked off shelves, a desk drawer torn completely out and splintered. Emily scanned the chaos. "Did they take anything?" "Yes," Raymond said, "a small black notebook." Jordan frowned. "What was in it?" "We don't know," the sheriff admitted. "The notebook wasn't listed in the official case inventory." Lucas stepped closer to the desk, running his hand along the edge, meaning the killer knew something the police didn't. Raymond grimaced. Or Henry hid something from everyone except the person who killed him. Emily crouched beside the desk. Henry was secretive. People said he had business dealings outside Winterdale. Jordan added, and enemies. Lucas lifted a fallen frame from the floor. Henry Whitlock standing beside a group of unfamiliar people. The photo was old, faded, but the setting wasn't Winterdale. Raymond took the frame from him. "We're looking into these people." Emily stood, brushing dust from her knees. "Sheriff, if the killer came back here, it means they weren't done. There's something bigger." Raymond didn't deny it. Instead, he pointed toward the far corner. "Look at the window." Lucas walked over. The glass pane had a small crack in it, like someone pressed hard against it or watched from outside. Under the crack was something even more disturbing. A footprint. A small one. Emily whispered, "That's not the same footprint from the woods. This one is smaller, lighter." Jordan swallowed. "Different person?" Raymond nodded solemnly. "Possibly." Lucas turned to him. "Sheriff, are you saying we're dealing with more than one person?" His silence was answer enough. A door that should have stayed shut. After searching the study, Raymond led them upstairs. "Be careful," he warned. "Floorboards are old." The staircase groaned as they climbed. At the top was a long hallway lined with doors, all closed except one, Henry's bedroom. Inside the room felt colder than the rest of the house, as if the cold was coming from inside the walls. The sheriff pointed to the closet. "That door was locked yesterday. Today, it's open." The closet door stood slightly ajar. Lucas approached slowly. "Did the killer hide something here?" "No," Raymond answered. "They took something." Jordan asked, "What was in it?" He hesitated. "A safe." Emily raised an eyebrow. "A safe. What was in it?" "A set of documents, old ones, property deeds, banking papers, and something else." Lucas stepped closer. "What?" Raymond took a breath. "A letter addressed to Henry, written 2 weeks before he died." Emily frowned. "From who?" Raymond looked directly at Lucas, and Lucas's stomach tightened. From someone named Elias Carter. The sheriff said quietly, "Lucas, is that name familiar to you?" Lucas felt the world drop out from under beneath his feet. Elias Carter. His father. Emily gasped, "Lucas, your dad wrote to Henry?" Jordan muttered, "What the hell?" Lucas took a step back, gripping the wall. That's not possible. My dad hasn't spoken to Henry in years. They weren't even close." Raymond held up a gloved hand. "We don't know what the letter said. The killer took it." Lucas ran a hand through his hair. "Sheriff, I swear I didn't know anything about this." Raymond placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "I believe you, but we need answers." Emily's voice was gentle. "Lucas, are you okay?" He didn't answer, because something else had caught his eye. Across the room, above the dresser mirror, lightly etched into the foggy glass, barely visible, were 4 chilling words. "He knows the truth." Emily whispered, "Who wrote that?" Lucas felt the ice crawl over his skin. Jordan said slowly, "Sheriff, that wasn't here before, was it?" Raymond's jaw clenched. "No." Emily looked around the room, suddenly uneasy. "Sheriff, are you saying someone was in here long after the murder, writing messages, watching the house?" Raymond nodded grimly. "Someone who wants Lucas's family involved." Lucas whispered, "Why would my dad write to Henry?" Jordan asked, "Do you think your father is connected to all this?" Lucas shook his head hard. "No, he would never be part of something like this." Emily looked him straight in the eyes. "Then someone wants to make you think he was." Raymond spoke firmly. "We need to find that safe, and we need to find Elias Carter." Lucas swallowed. His voice cracked. "My dad disappeared 3 days ago." The room went still. Jordan whispered, "Lucas, why didn't you tell us?" Lucas' eyes filled with confusion and fear. "I thought he just left for work."
Winterdale was supposed to be peaceful, a small American town wrapped in snow where Christmas carols floated through chimneys and every neighbor knew every face. But today, Winterdale felt like a trap. The sky was darker than usual, clouds rolling low across the mountains like bruises. As Lucas stepped outside Henry Whitlock's house, the cold air hit him harder than it should have, as if the world itself was warning him to turn back. But he couldn't. Not after learning that his father, Elias Carter, had written a letter to Henry 2 weeks before the murder. Not after discovering that Elias had been missing for 3 days. Not after seeing the message carved into the fogged mirror. Lucas felt Emily's hand lightly touch his arm. "Hey," she said softly, "take a breath." Jordan stood on Lucas's other side, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "This doesn't mean your dad is involved. It means someone wants us to think he is." Sheriff Holt locked the front door of the Whitlock house and joined them on the snowy porch. "We need to talk," he said. The way he said it made all 3 of them stand straighter. Raymond's voice lowered. "Lucas, there's something else you need to know." Lucas's pulse quickened. "What now?" "I found your father's truck." Lucas felt his stomach twist. "Where?" Raymond pointed toward the distant woods, the same woods where Lucas had found the footprints. "Parked half a mile down the ridge road, abandoned." Emily's eyes widened. "Was there blood?" "No." Raymond shook his head. "No. No signs of a struggle. No broken glass. No footprints leading away. It's like Elias stepped out of the truck and vanished." Jordan's jaw tightened. "That's impossible. He didn't just evaporate." "Exactly. Which means someone moved him or took him." The wind howled through the trees, making Lucas shiver. Sheriff Holt placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder. "Listen to me carefully. We're not treating your father as a suspect, but we are treating him as missing." Lucas swallowed hard. "So where do we start?" Raymond reached into his coat and pulled out a small plastic evidence bag. Inside was a folded piece of paper.
What is that? Raymond held it up. This was found in your father's truck, stuffed under the passenger seat. Emily leaned closer. What does it say? Raymond didn't open it. We do that at the station. For now, I need you three to go home. I'll call you as soon as I know something. Wait, Jordan stepped forward. Sheriff, someone was watching us in the woods yesterday, and someone broke into Henry's house again last night. That means the killer is still here, watching everything we do. Raymond nodded grimly. I know. Emily crossed her arms. Then why send us home? Because whoever did this wants you involved. I need to keep you away from the crime scenes so I can work without them anticipating our moves. Lucas frowned. You think they're tracking us? Raymond looked Lucas directly in the eyes. I think they're 3 steps ahead of us. A silence fell over the porch. Finally, Lucas spoke. Sheriff, do you think my father knew something about Henry? Something dangerous? Then he said carefully, I think your father was trying to protect you from something, and whatever it was, found him.
He moved cautiously up the walkway, gun drawn, eyes sharp. Deputies flanked him, sweeping the yard. They stepped inside. The house was eerily quiet, too quiet. Clear downstairs, Carlson called after a few tense minutes. Upstairs? Holt asked. Deputy Myers leaned over the railing. Clear. Lucas slowly entered behind them, Emily and Jordan close at his sides. His house was untouched, nothing broken, nothing missing, no signs of a struggle, but something was wrong. Emily pointed at the kitchen table. Lucas, look. On the table sat a small object, placed neatly in the center, a second silver key, identical to the one they found in the woods. Lucas approached it slowly, chest tight. Jordan murmured, the killer was here. Emily whispered, he left it for you. Sheriff Holt lifted the key with a gloved hand. Someone wants you to follow a trail. Lucas exhaled shakily. But why? The sheriff answered quietly. Because your father wasn't the only one who knew the truth. Lucas turned toward him. What do you mean? Raymond looked at Lucas with a mixture of worry and regret. Lucas, someone wants you to discover something they think only you can find. Lucas stared at the key in Raymond's hand, and that's when he noticed something different about it. A number faintly engraved on the metal. #14. Lucas breathed out, stunned. This is a storage unit key. Jordan stepped closer. Storage unit 14? Emily tensed. Where? Winterdale doesn't even have a storage facility. Lucas swallowed. No, he whispered. But the next town over does. Sheriff Holt lowered the key. You think your father rented a unit there? Lucas nodded slowly, dread rising up his spine. I think whatever he was hiding, it's inside that storage unit. Emily inhaled sharply. Then that's where we go next. Sheriff Holt shook his head. Not tonight. Not without backup. We wait until morning. Lucas clenched his jaw. He wasn't sure they had until morning, because someone had been inside his house, someone who left the key deliberately, someone who wanted him to follow, someone who knew exactly where the truth was hidden, and somewhere just beyond Winterdale's shimmering snow, Elias Carter might still be alive, or the killer might be waiting for them. The sky above the ruined valley had turned a deep shade of crimson, as if the world itself sensed what was about to happen. A silent wind crawled across the battlefield, carrying dust, broken leaves, and the lingering echo of every sacrifice made so far. The ground trembled gently, almost like a warning, before settling into an uneasy stillness. Eris stepped forward, his sword glowing faintly with the power he had unlocked throughout his journey. The markings that adorned his arms shimmered with a golden light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Behind him stood Mira and Kale, both injured yet determined,
refusing to step back now that the end was so close. At the center of the valley, the enemy awaited. Lord Zarion stood tall and unmoving, draped in a dark cloak that swayed even though the wind had stilled. His eyes glowed with a cold, purple fire, and the air around him twisted with a corrupted energy. Shadows curled near his boots, stretching across the ground like living creatures hungry for life. "So," Zarion said calmly, "you finally arrived, and you brought your little army of hope with you." Eris tightened his grip on his sword. "This ends today." A low laugh escaped Zarion. "You think you can defeat me? Everything that has happened, all chaos, all destruction, was inevitable. You were only delaying fate." Mira stepped forward despite the pain in her leg. "No, fate is not written by darkness. It is shaped by choices." Zarion raised one hand, and the sky responded with a roar. Bolts of dark lightning cracked through the clouds. "Then demonstrate your choices, if you dare." Eris inhaled deeply, steadying his mind. Every lesson, every sacrifice, and every moment of the journey led to this point. He felt the warmth of his friend's trust behind him, and it strengthened the light within him. The battle erupted with a violent shockwave. Eris dashed forward, meeting Zarion's blade with a thunderous clash that sent sparks soaring into the air. The force of the blow traveled through his arms, but he held firm. Zarion unleashed a barrage of shadow strikes, each one faster and heavier, pushing Eris back step by step. Kale fired arrows infused with light magic, each shot splitting through the air with a sharp whistle. Mira summoned barriers to block incoming waves of darkness, but even she struggled as the corruption pressed against her magic. Zarion barely faltered. "Is this all the hope you carry?" Eris roared and struck with renewed strength. His sword erupted with golden flames, slicing through the shadows. Each strike pushed Zarion back, and for the first time, the Dark Lord looked surprised. "How did you—" Eris cut him off. "This power, it isn't mine alone. It's built from every life you've tried to destroy." Light exploded from Eris's sword, illuminating the entire valley. Zarion raised both hands, conjuring a colossal wall of shadows. The ground shook violently as the two forces collided, light against darkness. Mira and Kale poured the last of their magic into Eris, their hope intertwining with his. The golden light surged brighter and brighter until it broke through Zarion's defenses. A deafening crash. The morning was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Winterdale lay under a thick blanket of snow, the kind that muffled every sound and made the streets seem frozen in time. Lucas Carter stood at the edge of the driveway, staring at the small storage facility across town, Unit Ash 14. The key from his house gleamed faintly in his hand. Emily and Jordan stood beside him, their breaths visible in the cold air. Neither spoke. Words weren't necessary. They all knew what this moment meant. Lucas inserted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly. The metal clicked, and the door swung open with a low groan. Dust and the faint scent of old wood greeted them. The space was dimly lit, illuminated only by the morning light filtering in through the small skylight above. The space was small, but full of crates and boxes stacked neatly against the walls. Most were covered in tarps. The air smelled of metal, paper, and something faintly chemical. Lucas stepped inside carefully. Emily followed, scanning the room, and Jordan hung back, keeping an eye on the entrance. At the far corner, a wooden crate stood out. It was slightly larger than the others, and the markings on it were unfamiliar. A symbol etched into the wood, a circle with intersecting lines. Lucas approached it slowly and lifted the lid. Inside was a small black case. He lifted it gently, careful not to make noise. Emily leaned closer. "Do you think this is what your father left?" Lucas didn't answer immediately. He opened the case. Inside were documents, neatly stacked, financial papers, letters, and a small notebook. The notebook was bound in dark leather, worn at the edges, and had a single word stamped on the cover: truth. Lucas opened the notebook. His eyes scanned the first page, and his lips moved silently as he read. "Emily, Jordan, this explains everything." Jordan stepped closer. "What does it say?" Lucas continued, reading aloud softly. "My father was trying to stop something Henry Whitlock discovered, someone powerful who wanted the truth buried." Emily's hands trembled slightly. "So that's why they killed him?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, and why they're following us now. They don't want anyone to uncover this." Jordan frowned. "What's next? Do we take this to the sheriff?" Lucas shook his head. "No, we need to understand it first. If we go to the wrong person, the killer will know." Emily looked around the unit. "Is there anything else?" Lucas examined the crate again. Beneath the case was a small envelope, yellowed with age. He opened it and pulled out a key card, plastic, black, unmarked except for a series of numbers, 221B. Lucas's pulse quickened. "This isn't just a storage unit key. This leads somewhere else." Jordan's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Lucas looked at them both, determination in his gaze. "Someplace Henry Whitlock wanted hidden. Someplace the killer thinks no one will ever find." Emily whispered, "Then that's where we go next." Lucas nodded. "Exactly. But we have to be careful. Whoever did this is watching." The three of them left the storage unit, carrying the case and the envelope carefully. Snow crunched under their boots. The street was empty, silent, waiting. And somewhere in the shadows of Winterdale, someone was already aware they had found the hidden key. Lucas tightened his grip on the envelope. The next step was dangerous, but it was the only path forward, because the truth had to be uncovered, and nothing would stop them.
The sun had barely risen over Winterdale, casting pale light across the streets and the snow-laden rooftops. Lucas, Emily, and Jordan moved cautiously toward the building that matched the number on the keycard, 221B. It was an old warehouse on the outskirts of town, long abandoned, its windows shattered and walls streaked with weathered paint. The kind of place where shadows felt alive. Lucas held the envelope with the keycard tightly. "This is it," he said quietly. "Henry must have left something important here." Emily nodded. "Let's stay alert. Whoever's after us could be watching." Jordan checked the perimeter. "I don't see anyone, but that doesn't mean we're safe. Old warehouses have plenty of hiding spots." Lucas slid the keycard into a small reader embedded next to the rusted door. The machine beeped faintly. A light flickered green, and the door swung open with a grinding groan. Dust filled the air. Inside, the space was dark and musty, but the smell of old wood and metal carried a faint sense of history, decades of secrets waiting to be uncovered. They stepped inside slowly, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Wooden beams lined the ceiling. Crates and broken machinery were scattered across the floor. The sound of their boots echoed ominously. At the far end of the room, Lucas noticed a faint outline in the wall. It wasn't a door at first, but a seam running horizontally across the brickwork. He crouched, brushing away dust. The seam was deliberate, mechanical. "Look at this," he whispered. "It's not just a wall. It's a hidden passage." Emily's eyes widened. "Do you think Henry left something inside?" Lucas nodded. "Whatever it is, it's probably the reason he was killed." Jordan stepped forward. "How do we open it?" Lucas examined the wall more carefully. Small indentations were hidden within the bricks, almost invisible. He pressed one, then another. A quiet click followed, and a section of the wall shifted inward slowly, revealing a narrow stairway descending into darkness. Emily swallowed. "This is it, the path Henry wanted hidden."
Lucas shined his flashlight down the stairs. The beam revealed stone steps, worn and uneven. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by every breath. A chill rose from below. Jordan stepped first. Stay close. One wrong move and we could be trapped. They descended cautiously. The air grew colder with every step. The walls were damp, the smell of earth and metal heavier. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a long corridor carved from stone, dimly lit by faint bulbs spaced along the ceiling. The corridor stretched ahead, disappearing into darkness. Lucas moved forward, flashlight steady. Henry must have wanted this hidden for a reason. This is bigger than we thought. Emily glanced at the walls. Look at these markings. Numbers, letters, some kind of code? Lucas bent down to examine them. They match some of the entries in the notebook. Henry must have left instructions, maybe clues to follow inside. Jordan stepped ahead carefully. We're walking into the heart of the secret. Whoever's killer probably thought no one would find it. Emily shivered. But we did. They continued down the corridor, each step heavier than the last. The silence was oppressive, only broken by the sound of their breathing and distant echoes. At the far end of the passage, the corridor widened into a small chamber. Dust and cobwebs hung in the air, and at the center, a wooden chest rested on a stone pedestal. It was plain, but clearly important. Lucas approached it slowly, heart pounding. He opened the lid. Inside were stacks of papers, documents, and a small bundle tied with string. At the top was a letter addressed to him in his father's handwriting. Lucas, if you are reading this, you are ready to know the truth. Lucas held the letter, trembling. Emily and Jordan leaned in, watching silently. Lucas opened it carefully. The contents were clear, precise, and heavy with revelation. His father had discovered the killer's network, their plans, and a trail leading to someone far more dangerous than they had imagined. The notes described locations, hidden accounts, and evidence meant to stop the chain of murders. Emily whispered, This explains everything. Jordan looked at Lucas. So your father left this for you, to finish what he started. Lucas nodded, determination burning in his eyes. Yes, and we're going to see it through. This isn't just about finding him anymore. It's about stopping the killer. The hidden chamber seemed to echo with the weight of their resolve. Outside, the world was still quiet, but inside, a plan was forming. They had the key, they had the knowledge, and now they had no choice but to follow the path Henry Whitlock had left behind, because the killer was still out there, and Lucas Carter was ready to face him.
The air outside the hidden chamber had turned sharper, colder. Winterdale's streets lay quiet beneath a thin layer of morning frost, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Lucas, Emily, and Jordan emerged from the secret passage, carrying the chest and the letter carefully. Every step toward the street felt heavy, aware that someone, somewhere, could be watching. Lucas glanced around. We can't go back the same way. If the killer knew we had the key or found the passage, they might be waiting. Emily nodded. Then we need a plan. Jordan checked the horizon. The roads are empty. We could take the trucks, fast and direct. Lucas shook his head. No. They'd see us. If someone's tracking my father, they'll know our moves before we even make them. Emily asked, Then what? Walk? Lucas considered it. No. We need to mislead them, divide attention. I go one way, Emily and Jordan another. Jordan frowned. Are you serious? That's too risky. Lucas's jaw tightened. We don't have a choice. The chest has information they can't get without us finding it first. And if we move as a group, they'll know exactly where to follow. Emily took a deep breath. Then we split. I'll go with Jordan. Lucas nodded. And I'll head to the first location my father marked, the one that leads directly to the next clue. Jordan looked at him, eyes sharp. Lucas, if something happens,
Lucas cut him off. "We stick to the plan. Stay safe, communicate only when necessary." With that, they separated. Lucas slipped into the forest edge, moving silently across snow-dusted ground. Emily and Jordan disappeared down a side street, melting into the shadows of the early morning. Tracking the first clue. Lucas followed the coordinates in the notebook, moving cautiously. Every branch snap and crunch of snow made him pause. The path led him into the outskirts of town, near a long-abandoned factory. Its windows were broken, the doors hanging from rusted hinges. Inside, darkness stretched as far as the eye could see.
Lucas stepped carefully inside, flashlight in hand. The floor was uneven, scattered with debris. He moved toward the area his father had marked, a small office at the back. Dust covered the furniture, papers stacked neatly on a desk, despite the building's decay. A single envelope sat on top, addressed, "To Lucas, keep moving." He opened it. Inside was a map of Winterdale, pinpointing a series of locations, each with cryptic notes in his father's handwriting. One was highlighted more than the others, an old cabin in the woods, marked Henry's Final Proof. Lucas's heart quickened. This was the next step. This was the key to stopping the killer. He pocketed the map and glanced around the factory. Something felt off. The air was too still, too quiet. Then, faint but deliberate, he heard it, a soft footstep across the metal floor above him. He froze. Silence followed. Then a low whisper, "Lucas Carger." He whirled, flashlight sweeping across the darkened room. Nothing. Emily and Jordan weren't here. He was alone. The whisper came again, closer. "You shouldn't have found this." Lucas's pulse raced. The presence was real. Someone was inside the factory, waiting, watching, tracking him. He clenched his fists. "I won't stop. Not now, not ever." Moving silently, he made his way toward the stairs, careful to avoid any sounds. Every step brought him closer to the exit and closer to the next clue. The hallway above creaked under the intruder's weight. He froze, listening. A shadow moved across the broken balcony above. He realized immediately he was being hunted. The killer wasn't just watching, they were tracking his every move. He had the map. He had his father's letter. He had the knowledge of the hidden path. But now, more than ever, he understood the stakes. The shadow above shifted again, and a voice, cold and deliberate, echoed through the empty factory. "Going somewhere, Lucas? You won't leave this building alive." Lucas swallowed his fear. He couldn't turn back. He had to move forward. Every beat of his heart, every step in the snow, every choice he made now carried the weight of the truth. Because the killer had finally found him, and the hunt had begun. Lucas moved silently through the snow-covered forest, the map from the factory clutched tightly in his hand. Every branch he passed seemed to whisper, every shadow felt like it held eyes. He had memorized the coordinates. Every step brought him closer to the cabin his father had marked, Henry's Final Proof. The forest grew denser as he advanced. Snow muffled his footsteps, but not the tension building in his chest. He glanced back once, expecting to see a shadow or figure tracking him, but there was nothing. Yet he could feel the presence. The killer was near, waiting for him to make a mistake. Lucas slowed, scanning the trees. The map indicated the cabin should be just ahead, hidden behind a bend in the ridge. As he neared it, he noticed something that made his stomach tighten. Fresh footprints in the snow, leading directly to the cabin's porch. Not his. He crouched, examining them carefully. Heavy boots. The stride was long, confident. The killer was here. They had beaten him to the cabin. Lucas exhaled slowly, steadying his nerves.
Then I need to be smarter, he whispered. The cabin was small and rustic. Snow clung to its roof and eaves. Windows were dark, opaque with frost. He approached quietly, pressing his ear to the door. He could hear movement inside. Soft shuffling, a low hum, almost like someone whispering to themselves. He pulled out the key card from his father's envelope. Though this wasn't a card lock, he had learned to trust any tool his father left. He checked the door for signs of entry. The latch was old, simple. He eased it open, slipping inside. The cabin smelled of old wood, damp earth, and something faintly metallic. A single lantern hung from a hook, dimly glowing. The room was sparsely furnished, a table, 2 chairs, and a bookshelf along one wall. Papers and notebooks were stacked neatly on the table, along with a small wooden box. He froze. On the floor, he saw footprints in the dust, matching the boots outside. Someone had been here recently. Someone was still here. He stepped forward cautiously, toward the table. His flashlight illuminated a notebook with Henry Whitlock's name etched on the cover. Next to it, the wooden box was slightly ajar, revealing stacks of documents tied in bundles and labeled in neat handwriting. Evidence critical. Lucas felt a chill. This was it? The proof? The files his father had been trying to protect? The files that could expose the killer? Suddenly, a shadow fell across the room. "Looking for this?" a voice said, low and cold. Lucas turned sharply. A figure emerged from the corner, tall, wearing dark clothing and a hood that obscured their face. The killer. Lucas froze. How did you get here?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, they stepped closer, moving silently. Every movement was deliberate, controlled, predatory. Lucas' hand went to his father's letter in his pocket. He had no weapon, only knowledge, only the proof in front of him. The killer extended a gloved hand toward the box. Lucas acted without thinking. He lunged, grabbing the box and spinning to put it between him and the figure. Papers scattered across the floor, and the figure hissed in frustration. "Stay back," Lucas shouted. The killer's eyes glimmered beneath the hood. "You shouldn't have come here," they said, low and menacing. "Everything your father worked for ends tonight." Lucas clenched his jaw. "Not if I stop you." The killer lunged. Lucas dodged, spinning the box to shield himself. He felt the cold scrape of metal against wood as the figure's gloves struck the corner of the table. Dust and papers flew into the air. Lucas grabbed a bundle of documents and pressed it to his chest, backing toward the door. Lucas made it to the door and yanked it open, snow blowing in. He bolted, sprinting toward the forest, the bundle of evidence in his arms. Behind him, the figure emerged, moving like a shadow, faster than any human should be able to move. Branches snapped underfoot, snow sprayed into the air. Lucas didn't look back. He couldn't afford to. Only one thought consumed him: protect the proof, find the sheriff, stop the killer. He didn't know how close they were. He didn't know if he could outrun the figure. All he knew was that this moment, this chase, would determine whether the truth survived. Lucas pushed through the snow, heart hammering, feet cutting through drifts. The forest closed in around him, but he refused to falter. Because the files his father had left behind, the evidence of Henry's murder, the secret that could save lives, they could not fall into the wrong hands. The forest was silent except for the crunch of snow beneath Lucas's boots. His chest heaved, every breath sharp in the cold winter air. The bundle and evidence, pressed tightly against his chest, the papers protected by his arms, felt heavier with every step. The killer was close. He could feel it, the presence just behind him moving like a shadow. Lucas darted between the trees, searching for a path back to town. Every instinct screamed to keep moving, to stay ahead, to survive. But he knew the killer had anticipated this. That's why Henry had left the map, the letters, the key. It was a race, and only the smartest would win. Suddenly, the trees ahead parted, revealing a small clearing. Lucas froze. His instinct screamed something wasn't right. From the far side of the clearing, the figure emerged. The hood still obscured their face, but the posture was deliberate, menacing. They didn't chase immediately. They waited, calculated, letting Lucas step fully into the clearing. Lucas took a deep breath. He could make a run for the next tree line, but it was a trap. The snow showed multiple sets of footprints leading from behind him. He had walked straight into an ambush. The killer spoke, voice calm but deadly. "You thought you could outrun me, Lucas Carter?" Lucas's hand tightened on the bundle of papers. "I won't let you get them, not now." The figure advanced, slow, methodical. Every step disturbed snow that sparkled like ice crystals in the weak winter sunlight. Lucas scanned the clearing quickly, searching for anything, any advantage. Then he saw it, a fallen log at the edge of the clearing. He sprinted toward it, sliding behind it just as the figure lunged, the edge of their gloves scraping snow where he had stood. Lucas rolled, keeping low, and counted his breaths. He needed a plan. The killer was fast, stronger than he had imagined, and now, in the open, there was nowhere to hide. He had only the papers, the bundle that held the truth and his determination. He forced himself to think. The killer's approach was aggressive but predictable. They expected him to panic. He would not. Lucas waited. The shadow moved closer, circling the log. Then he spotted a path, a narrow depression in the snow that led to a dense clump of trees. If he could reach it, the trees would offer cover, slow the pursuit, and give him an advantage. Timing was everything. The killer moved in again. Lucas exploded from behind the log, sprinting toward the trees, every muscle straining. Snow sprayed under his feet. Branches whipped against his jacket, but he didn't slow. Behind him, the figure followed, silent but relentless. Halfway to the trees, Lucas risked a glance. The killer was faster than him. They would catch him if he didn't act. His mind raced. The papers, the key, the path forward, everything depended on him surviving this. He spotted a small incline, the edge of a slope just ahead. Without hesitation, he kicked off the snow, sliding down, using momentum to increase distance. The killer hesitated, miscalculating the movement. Lucas used the advantage, rolling into the dense tree cover. Branches tore at his jacket, snow clinging to him, but he kept moving, weaving through the trees with precise steps. The killer followed, but the trees slowed their approach. Lucas's heart pounded, adrenaline surged. He could see the outline of the town in the distance. He was close, close to safety, close to the sheriff, close to the next clue. The killer cursed, their voice low, frustrated. "You can't escape forever." Lucas didn't answer. He kept moving, faster now, weaving through the shadows and trunks, keeping low. Every step counted, every breath mattered. Finally, the trees opened onto a snow-covered road. He could see the faint lights of Winterdale ahead. The forest behind him was still, but he knew the figure would not stop. The chase was far from over. But he had survived the first ambush. He was closer to the truth than ever before, and he knew, with certainty, that the killer would not give up. Lucas tightened his grip on the bundle. The final confrontation was coming, and he would be ready. Lucas ran along the snowy road, the bundle of evidence pressed tightly to his chest. Winterdale was just ahead, the town streets quiet and empty, the soft light of early evening glinting off the snow. He could feel the weight of everything on his shoulders: his father's disappearance, Henry Whitlock's murder, and the relentless presence of the killer who had followed him through forests, factories, and secret passages. He didn't stop, not for breath, not for fear. Every step was toward the one person who could finally make sense of the chaos: Sheriff Raymond Holt. The sheriff waited near the edge of town, flanked by deputies. Lucas spotted him, relief washing over him for the first time in days. Emily and Jordan were already there, safe, watching anxiously. "Lucas," Emily shouted, rushing forward. Lucas skidded to a halt, handing the bundle of evidence to the sheriff. Here, everything my father left. Henry's proof. The killer. It's all in here. Sheriff Holt opened the bundle carefully, his eyes scanning the documents. Each page told the story, the motives, the secret transactions, the network of threats, and the final proof that connected the killer to Henry's murder. Raymond's jaw tightened. This is everything. Lucas, you've done exactly what your father wanted. Lucas nodded, exhausted. We can stop them now. Emily asked, but where is the killer? Raymond looked up sharply. They're still out there, but with this evidence, we can trap them. We know their moves. We know their methods. We know their secrets. Jordan exhaled, relief and tension mixing in his chest. Finally, after all this, Lucas looked down at the snow. After everything, it comes down to the truth. That's what my father wanted, Henry wanted, and now it's our turn to finish it. Sheriff Holt spoke with quiet authority. Lucas, Emily, Jordan, you've risked everything, but the killer can't survive exposure. The law will do the rest. Lucas glanced at his friends, then at the town. Winterdale was still quiet, still under snow, but safe, for now. The danger hadn't vanished entirely, but the path forward was clear. He felt a strange calm. After nights of fear, running, and uncertainty, the truth was finally in the light. Every step, every secret, every hidden clue had led here. Lucas took a deep breath, letting the cold air fill his lungs. Let's end this, he said. And together, they did. The killer's network was dismantled. The secrets were revealed, and justice for Henry Whitlock and for his father was finally secured. Winterdale could breathe again, even as the snow continued to fall, quiet and white, covering the world in the calm of truth restored. Lucas looked up at the sky, the winter clouds parting slightly. A sense of closure settled over him. It had been a long, dark journey, but now the story of secrets, murder, and relentless pursuit had reached its rightful conclusion. The winter air was cold, but the light of truth warmed him from within, and Winterdale would never forget the courage it took to uncover it.